support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
Well, hello. We are trapped behind the blue screen of death.
And that's our episode.
You are on Untold Radio. My name's Jay Katz.
Yeah, and I'm Aspasia.
Of course you are. I'm trying to get that lead
and
there.
Here we are.
Yeah. And that was the blue screen of death. One strike and you're out. Episode 92 on Down South Anomalies. Of course,
just pop it up again.
We are broadcasting that. You will see that ubiquitously now from this point onwards in this reality we're living in. We are broadcasting, of course, on stolen land, sacred land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We wish to pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. We wish to thank all our supporters are here, and of course, our extraordinary moderators,
yes.
John Ayres. We wish you all the best. We hope you are healing off the lounge and moving around. Catherine Four Feather Falls,
healing and accepting and
what do you mean by this?
Well, John's life's changed now because he can't work anymore. So
I don't know if he can't work anymore.
Well, he can't do the salt mines, can he?
Yeah, he was a salt miner. Go back and check one of our episodes. We did a great interview.
It was an amazing interview. So look, life is about adapting to change, and that's the only thing that you can definitely predict is that things will change. And if you don't change with the times, you get left behind.
All right. Thanks, John. That's a warning.
No, not a warning.
It's early in the morning. We're recording. She hasn't had a cup of coffee.
Not a warning. Just a reality.
Well, last Friday, Aspasia, we were at sea.
We were at sea.
And we were unaware of the blue screen of death and the
havoc
it was
causing. No clue.
Which was quite remarkable. I mean, we don't own mobile phones to begin with.
Didn't have, and we didn't take our laptop with us. We were only gone for 4 days. So we thought, look, we don't have to check emails for 4 days.
We had also, preempting that, had complete computer collapse.
We had our main computer had died, and my laptop had I dropped it and ruined the screen. So it was like
everything went down.
I know it did. And so we went, okay, we're going away for 4 days with the kids. We took them on school holidays on a cruise to Moreton Island up in Tangalooma in Queensland.
It was lovely. It was like cruising during a tornado, really, wasn't it? At times?
It wasn't.
Well, there's some windy and rainy weather.
If you go right up to the top of the ship,
all right,
where the smokers are, it's going to be windy up there. I never felt the wind at all. But anyway, look, we had a great time with the kids and everything, and we didn't have any social media on, so we weren't able to.
It was like Day of the Triffids. We got up the next morning and said the world had shut down, half the world.
I know. This terrible thing. My sister was telling me she was in a shop and she couldn't go shopping.
So was my sister. And you know what? 84 million computers went down. All of them had to be restarted manually.
Right.
And so for those companies in chains that were all involved with CrowdStrike's antivirus spyware software, well, how do people get this monopoly?
It wasn't an attack. It wasn't a hack.
Of course it wasn't. It was an update in their program that
that's right.
wasn't tested properly.
What? I hate those updates. I really do.
Well, you can never trust them. And you know what?
It's not that. It's like you go to bed, you wake up in the morning, and everything's been configured. And it's like, why did you reconfigured? It's just been changed. And it's like, why did you have to change it? You know what? Yeah, and that's the thing is like we don't like change yet. They keep changing these things on us all the time.
Change is inevitable. It's the only thing we can predict.
But the look of something doesn't have to change. That's a cosmetic thing. Do you know what I mean? And it's
what we're going to talk about here is the fact that this is something that a lot of IT specialists have been waiting for. They knew it was going to happen.
Right.
They thought it might have happened through hacking.
Right.
But when the grid goes down, it goes down.
Yeah.
And what amazes me is this incredible monopoly that CrowdStrike, the company, had. They were actually involved with over half of the Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah, that's a lot of. This is the thing too, and you used to hear that saying, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket," and they used to say that for a reason, and it's still applicable today. If you've got 100 eggs, you put them all in one basket, and you drop the basket, you're done.
Big trouble.
Your eggs are gone, right? So what you do is you spread them around. So if one of them does go down, all your eggs aren't lost. But that's too many huge companies to have that if one thing goes wrong in one company, everybody's gone down.
Well, what are the eggs in one basket that we're talking about? Well, these people, Delta Airlines, Amazon, Xbox, Visa card, ABC, the American Broadcasting Corporation, United Airlines, 9/11 Gov. So the emergency numbers, all the emergency stuff for hospitals, Microsoft 365 ADT, BetMGM, Assure ASW, which are companies that literally run the frigging net.
Yeah.
Ancestry.com went down.
That can go down, seriously. That's not. I did hear somebody say, and all these gamers, they couldn't. It's like, get off your chair and get outside and get some sun. What is wrong with you people? What are they doing sitting there playing games day and night? You know what I mean?
This is a
How
sign
are they
for us.
propelling humanity forward by doing that?
And again, just like Civil War, the movie.
Yeah.
Barack Obama produced for Netflix.
Oh, yeah. Leave the World Behind.
Which was screaming at us just prior to this occurring. Isn't it interesting how popular culture massages reality?
No, seriously. You don't know that if the power goes out, if electricity goes out, everything that you have running, all your devices, all your information, everything that especially if you've got a Google Home, electricity goes down. You're either stuck inside and you can't get out,
Cybertruck,
or you're stuck outside and you can't get in. I mean, why would you put that many things?
Now, the blue screen of death
it's like, that's going to happen, it. One power outage and you're done for that time.
The blue screen of death is systems collapse.
Sure.
And they're even surprised. They're still debating who was behind that actual screen that pops up.
Right.
Because that must have been installed for a catastrophic, cataclysmic crash of multiple systems. So it's a blue screen error. It's a fatal error. It's a bog check, they call it. A bug check, I'm sorry. It's a stop error. Well, it is a bog check when it comes to the amount of data out there.
Exactly.
It's a critical error. The machine cannot operate anymore. That's what it's saying. And when it comes to this major infrastructure, these dangerous monopolies, I want to know. And today's program is about how did we get here? How were we massaged into accepting this as the unified field of all our infrastructure, our financial system,
everything?
It's frightening that we actually got to this point. And if we don't use this moment in time, let it be just a bit of dodginess.
It's too late. The horse has bolted, baby.
It has bolted.
It has. It's too late. No one's going to go back now.
We didn't
There's
pay
kids
attention.
that have been born. I mean, I see little 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds swiping phones. I'm like, what are you people doing?
We didn't pay
What
attention.
do you know? You poop and wee in your nappy, yet you can swipe a device. Teach your children how to get out of nappies before you give them a mobile phone, you morons.
Asper.
No,
Don't
seriously.
talk about people in that regard, that generalization.
It's all wrong. It's all wrong. It's all wrong.
Now,
I'm telling
the whole
you now.
notion of this program is about how did we get here? Because what we've done is we've accepted built-in obsolescence.
Long time ago.
Which has been marketed to an nth degree in Western society. We've accepted that in these programs that are vital to our everyday running. And this is a byproduct of letting that technology run rampant.
Yeah.
Not controlling it, not slowing it down.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just check out to the extent that global outage had
Why is everyone talking about Windows today? Well, a single defective update caused a massive global outage. It's wild how one tiny update can cause so much chaos. This outage hit banks, hospitals, airports, you name it. Even Xbox gamers were affected. Talk about bad luck. The UK had it the worst on their busiest travel day. CrowdStrike is catching a lot of heat for this mess. Fixing these blue screens might need hands-on help. Microsoft suggests turning your computer on and off up to 15 times. Stay tuned for updates and don't miss out on the latest news.
Yeah, let's all miss out
That's
on the
where I
latest
heard
news.
that.
And
And even Xbox, oh my God. It's like, oh, like, you know, hospitals, airports, and even Xbox. It's like, oh my God.
I love the fact that we're in the modern world, right? Yet what do Microsoft suggest? Plugging in and rebooting up to 15 times. Isn't that back to the old valve radio with a hammer over the top of it?
Or the TV, bang on the side.
Yeah,
That'll get it working.
Microsoft estimates nearly 8.5 million Windows devices were impacted by Friday's global IT outage. Cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike says that the update error that caused the mass disruption has been resolved. But yesterday, airlines like Delta were still dealing with cancellations prompted by the outage. Businesses, hospitals, government offices also had to recover their systems. Cybersecurity experts now worry that the outage highlights the fragility of globally connected technology. They also say that it's up to the U.S. to address potential flaws.
I don't think there are any easy solutions to these global outage vulnerabilities that are quick, easy, or cheap. It's an American conversation, essentially, because that's where all the tech is.
Cybersecurity agencies are warning businesses and individuals to look out for phishing schemes. They say that tech criminals are posing as tech specialists, offering to help folks recover and then hacking them.
No, there's
your parasites that come in.
No, it's your greatest byproduct of this, because this has all started well over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
In the carnival, in the barker, in the snake oil salesman. It's selling you the sizzle.
Absolutely.
That doesn't exactly work the way you wish it would. You think it does. You feel confident.
Well, here's the thing. When computers work, they're fabulous. Okay?
When they go
down,
it's the end of the world.
They're a nightmare.
Major development regarding the global tech outage that sent the world into disarray. Tech support scams are emerging following Friday's CrowdStrike incident. The meltdown that...
Now, that's what kills me, is that it doesn't take long for some group of nefarious individuals out there to take advantage of it. Yeah. So does it matter whether it's a hack or not?
No, it's...
Now, Australia was the test case as usual. Now that has to do the timeline. Well, that's where it first started.
Oh, right, yeah, because we were
absolute chaos in airports, especially in Britain. But Australia was the first port to realise something massive is happening here.
Yeah,
because we were awake. And have a look at what...
If someone has called you and is suggesting that they're going to help you, talk you through a reboot of your system, I would hang up the phone. Be really careful and be really on the lookout for attempts to use this to scam Australians and to scam small businesses. What we are hearing is that some small businesses in particular, some individuals are receiving emails from people who are pretending to be CrowdStrike or who are pretending to be Microsoft and are indicating that you need to put in bank details to get access to a reboot, that you need to pay money, that you need to put your personal details in so that your systems can be brought back online. But I ask all Australians to be...
You know, isn't it fascinating that it doesn't take long before it turns into an entire scam within a scam within a scam? The irony here is like Russian dolls. It's all about exploitation. And it's all about that fact of like, should we put all our eggs in one basket? Should all money become digital? Because once this occurs, and you realize that you haven't got access to money, have you got access to water? Have you got access to fuel? Have you got access to your home? Have you got access to your family? It is quite frightening. Now, we need to pay attention to what has gone before, because numerous individuals...
Well, it's all there.
Have been screaming at us. And one of them is a person that we keep referencing back to.
Yeah, I know.
And it's the incredible Professor.
Well, there's a few people, but
of
This is
English.
a handful of people.
He was a psychologist. Let me go through them sequentially before you dive in there.
Sorry, but
that poor cough of yours
I know.
is breaking
I'll be all
up.
right. Yep.
And it's Marshal McLuhan, of course. The medium is the message. Or when they came back from the printers, there was a mistake and it became the medium is the massage.
Yeah, and it is.
But Marshal McLuhan went, I'm going with that because it's the massage.
Oh, the massage.
And what McLuhan's diatribe about here was, we were a book, individual, singularity, moment to concentrate culture.
Yeah.
And now that culture has become a global village.
Yes.
It's no longer you or I sitting alone, reading a text and educating ourselves. It's you and I connected into the net web. And instead of actually, now hold on. Before you start to get critical.
Yeah, no,
it's incredible.
I know. We're on the same page with that one with him. Yeah,
and you know, now we're concentrating on the finest details of the minutiae.
Yeah.
We've all got caught in each other's lives.
Yeah.
And if you look at social media, we're distracted by the most mundane, banal, ridiculous things. But let's get a little check of who Marshal McLuhan is and the basis of that theory.
50 years ago, if you'd been at a meeting like this and were trying to understand the media, there was one prophet and only but one you wanted to hear from, Professor Marshal McLuhan. He actually understood something about a theme that we've been discussing all week. It's the role of the audience in an era of pervasive electronic communications. Here he is talking from the 1960s.
If the audience can become involved in the actual process of making the ad, then it's happy. It's like the old quiz shows. They were great TV because it gave the audience a role, something to do. They were horrified when they discovered they'd really been left out all the time because the shows are rigged. Now, this is a horrible misunderstanding of TV on the part of the programmers.
You know, McLuhan talked about the global village. If you substitute the word blogosphere, the internet today, it is very true that his understanding is probably very enlightening now. Let's listen to him.
The global village is a world in which you don't necessarily have harmony. You have extreme concern with everybody else's business and much involvement in everybody else's life. It's a sort of Ann Landers column writ large. And it doesn't necessarily mean harmony and peace and quiet, but it does mean huge involvement in everybody else's affairs. And so the global village is as big as the planet and as small as the village post office.
Yeah, I mean, and it means huge distraction for people. And it also means buying into something that you can't stop.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a cyclonic cavalcade of pulsating horror.
Yes.
It will never end. And as you said before, the pigeons are out, the cats are out. You can't get them back in.
You mean the horses bolted?
Yes, thank you. But, you know, this whole notion of the global village and connectivity, is it really what we need?
In the most secluded regions of the Amazon rainforest, a tribe once insulated from modernity's hustle and bustle has forged a connection that has drastically transformed their existence forever. Due to the groundbreaking ingenuity of entrepreneur Elon Musk's Starlink internet, the Marubo tribe finds itself now catapulted into the vast, immersive universe of the online world. They've been endowed with an opportunity that was utterly unimaginable just a few years ago. This tribe, once living in blissful isolation, harmonized with their environment, and deeply entrenched in the rich tapestry of their ancestral practices, now finds itself with access to a broader reality. The World Wide Web. This monumental shift has brought with it a wave of change, some exciting, some overwhelming, but all unquestionably transformative. The marvels of the digital age have not come without their share of trials for the Marubo tribe. Reports have surfaced painting a complex picture of the after effects of this sudden exposure. Some tribe members, in their newly accessed realm, have found themselves engrossed in an aspect of the internet they'd never anticipated: pornography. This development has drastically contrasted their previously pristine, traditional way of life, stirring up a cocktail of cultural shock, fascination, and concern. The tribe's experience has ignited an intense debate about the influence of technology, specifically the internet, on indigenous societies, a discourse that delves deep into the implications of sudden exposure, cultural preservation, and the ripple effects of the digital age. But regardless of the different perspectives,
And that just shows it is one classic example of like the destructive nature of bringing in that connectivity. Is it needed?
But this is not something new. I mean, they saw this whole thing happen with television.
Yes,
it's the exact same thing.
And you've actually hit the nail on the head there, because this is where McLuhan was decades before the World Wide Web.
He was there at the time when it was happening.
And but he saw it happening in radio,
that's right,
and television.
That's right.
And what he's talking about,
because can I just say, because radio and television are technologies, right? They were introduced technologies that changed the fabric of society.
And they started to sell us images that really drew us in, which were all negative images, primarily. Those negative images that we wanted to sit back and experience that fear and that horror, but be a voyeur and feel safe at the same time. And then that insecurity thing, well, it's not happening to me. It's happening to someone else. Now, someone with nowhere near the qualifications or the notoriety of Marshal McLuhan had already started doing this around the same time. And that gentleman is a journalist who became a social critic by default.
Yeah.
And his name is Vance Packard.
Yeah.
Vance Packard, 1914 to 96, American journalist and social critic, primarily a critic of consumerism. Master's degree from Columbia University. He wrote the groundbreaking book, and I can remember this, is one of my earliest memories of a book in our house, The Hidden Persuaders.
Persuaders, yeah.
Consumerism was an attack on traditional life.
Exactly.
And that in the end, the ultimate would that you and I turned into the robot prosumer. Which means that we no longer are just buying because there is built-in obsolescence.
Oh no, we're not just buying because we need something. We're buying because we want it.
Yes, it's based on desire. But we are forced to purchase yet again the same product or a slightly altered product because of built-in obsolescence.
That's right.
But now they've actually, the robot prosumer is the notion that psychological obsolescence is the driver. And it has become the driver.
Totally.
When phone companies can actually sell you virtually the same product that's only slightly updated, maybe the colors change, maybe there's another lens in the camera. And you've got this thing where everyone's got to get that new phone every freaking year. Let's get a little bit of background here. And thank you very much for this insight.
In the last of 3 related reviews, we come to a book published 65 years ago. Sarlins's Stone Age Economics contrasted the structure of the consumer society today with reference to what came before. Linda's The Harried Leisure Class considered how economic rationalizations were being forced into people's everyday lives by a lack of spare time. This book shows us how the modern economy learned how to manipulate perceptions in order to normalize this lifestyle. Vance Packard's The Hidden Persuaders was first published in 1957. It reviews how advertising and public relations first mastered the use of psychological techniques in order to create not only economic power, but also social pressure through the development of what later became brand identification. As Packard says at the beginning, this book is about the large-scale efforts being made, often with impressive success, to channel our unthinking habits, our purchasing decisions, and our thought processes by the use of insights gleaned from psychiatry and the social sciences. Typically, these efforts take place beneath our level of awareness, so that the appeals which move us are often, in a sense, hidden. The result is that many of us are being influenced and manipulated far more than we realize in the patterns of our everyday lives. Many attribute the popularization of subliminal advertising to Packard. That's not correct. and would not take place until well over a decade later in Wilson Bryan Key's Subliminal Seduction. What distinguishes Packard's work is that he was a journalist, not an academic or an insider. While his books are not deeply technical, they are far more accessible for the average person, and with decades of hindsight, many acknowledge the prescience of his observations on the economic pressures pervading modern society. Clearly, after 65 years, the details the book explores are archaic in terms of recent practice. However, if you want to understand how companies and lobby groups wield influence today, this book is an excellent guide to how opinion manipulation emerged from the 1940s to the 1970s, paving the way for political communications today. As Packard describes, what the probers are looking for are the whys of our behaviour, so that they can more effectively manipulate our habits and choices in their favour. Certain of the probers, for example, are systematically feeling out our hidden weaknesses and frailties in the hope that they can more efficiently influence our behaviour in an attempt to find how to identify and beam messages to people of high anxiety, body consciousness, hostility, passiveness, and so on.
You know what's astounding is that book sold over 1 million copies in 1957, virtually the moment it was released.
Right.
Which makes me incredibly aware that the public is so much more in tune than the people producing material for the public.
Yeah.
This is one of my frustrations for working for a national broadcaster in this country, is the fact that I had to cut my language and verbiage back at times, saying that the public will not understand what you're talking about. And they always do. Advertising agencies were infuriated with the book. And it exaggerated the reality, but they didn't want to let on. This was the first time the cat was out of the bag.
Right.
Can you
that
use
they were
another
exposed.
well-worn cliche that they were actually exposed, that they had employed psychiatrists and psychologists, philosophers, and they still do today,
of course,
to work out tactics to entrap the individuals and manipulate their purchasing. What they look for were 8 compelling needs: emotional security, reassurance of worth, ego gratification, creative outlets, love objects, sense of power, roots, and this false notion, of immortality. Now, one of the most frightening things here is that during Lyndon Johnson's reign of absolute terror, Packard criticized advertisers' unfettered use of private info.
Yes.
Sounds familiar
Very
today.
familiar, yeah.
To create marketing schemes. He compared a recent Great Society initiative by President Lyndon Johnson, the National Data Bank, to ensure that information did not find its way into the wrong hands.
Yeah, our personal information.
Yes, it led Congress to create a special subcommittee on the invasion of privacy, fighting against Johnson's flagrant disregard for any privacy. Now, today, all of us are aware, even if we look at our spyware, our malware, our antivirusware, of like the moment you go on the net, you are just entrapped by all these nanobots, everyone trying to profile you.
Well, most sites use cookies.
Yes.
So they can track what you're looking at and know. And that's why, you know, when you've just looked at some site, then in your whatever feed of whatever social media you're on, up comes that thing that you were looking at. They're advertising to you. They're marketing to you the whole time. It just doesn't let up. Anyway.
It will never let up.
No.
And the whole notion of built-in obsolescence is why the blue screen of death appeared.
Right.
Someone within Windows was well aware that a complete catastrophic cavalcade of systems failure was coming.
Yeah.
And they had the little blue screen sitting there. The
Ready
only
to
reason
go.
why it was coming is because of
You
built-in
make the
obsolescence.
machine to wear out much sooner than it needs to. So it has to be replaced sooner than it needs to. That may be a waste of resources, but it's profitable. The company that can get you to buy more because what it sold you didn't last as long as it might have is the successful profiteering company. Pretty soon, other companies who might have tried to produce the longer lasting machine discover that they can't compete. The company with planned obsolescence also has a little something new each time. Instead of a white refrigerator, how about one that's an avocado color, or a stainless steel one, or one that has a built-in radio? You get the picture? You produce in order
to decay.
Yeah.
How can you boost the sales volume of your products? It's very simple. Design them in such a way that consumers have to buy them again and again. There are several techniques. For example, psychological obsolescence. Create a hype around the latest version of your product. Ensure, through marketing and design, that people will feel ashamed for still having the old version of the product. Another technique is planned obsolescence. Make sure that a part breaks after a certain amount of use. Take the ingenious manufacturer of flat screens as an example. He placed the condenser very close to a source of heat, so it's used up faster. Develop it in such a way that the correct condenser cannot be found as a separate part, or even better, solder the condenser to the motherboard so that it's impossible to replace. Thanks to these techniques, everybody wins. You are, and you make the economy flourish. You create employment, and on top of that,
everybody doesn't win. The consumer
is the
always loses. Yeah. And, you know, that's an interesting thing because recently the battery in my laptop died and we found that battery is actually glued in there. So therefore, it is very difficult to remove. And you can also damage it when removing it.
Well, that's what was happening with the iPhones, wasn't it?
Yes.
18-month longevity of the battery, and then that's it. You need a new phone.
Another trick is like your update. You know, you just don't know which update, and that update can actually slow you down.
Well, not that, but actually, I learned this really, really early in the 90s. Remember when we were in Abercrombie Street?
Yes.
And a friend of ours was working at an electrical company, and he gave us a scanner. This is when scanners first came out, and he gave us a scanner because he used to do the road testing of them in Australia.
Yes.
And he ran the scanner. It was fine. He gave it to us. Took that scanner home. I started doing all that. Instead of doing the cut and paste thing, I started doing things on Photoshop. So my whole system of cutting and pasting, I got rid of and started using this system within the computer. And then my scanner died. And I'm like, what's wrong with the scanner? Got a friend to have a look at it. And he said, there's nothing wrong with your scanner. Your scanner's fine, but there isn't the program. It's not compatible to the program now. You have to throw it out. It's no longer working, but the scanner is fine. So they changed the interface. So now I couldn't. So he was a perfectly good piece of equipment that was now defunct. I couldn't use it. Had to go to land waste.
Now let's talk about that because evidently yearly,
I was outraged.
Let's talk about that. And drink up. That coughing is really cutting through the mic there. Well, you're getting better. You're getting rid of that bug that you picked up abroad. 54 million tons of e-waste.
Yeah.
And that is an underestimation.
Yeah, it is.
Annually goes to third world countries. It is highly toxic and dangerous to pick through, but because of their economic circumstances becomes part of their ability to survive as well. When they're picking through that, at the end of the day, in reality, less than 20% is recovered and put back into the system. 80% does become landfill.
Ends up in their landfill.
And it's totally toxic, and it's a nightmare.
Can I just say something about that too?
You're going to, whether I agree with you or not.
I just think that government, if the government of the country said to the manufacturer of this equipment, if you're going to make it, you know, with this built-in obsolescence that every year and a half to 2 years people have to change their mobile phones. How many mobile users are there? There's billions of them. then you are now responsible for getting rid of, for disposing of this e-waste and disposing of it properly. You wait and see how quickly they would change their practices, because to get rid of this stuff really properly would cost them billions of dollars, right? So their habits would change immediately. But the government, no balls in any country to say to these capitalist whoremongers, right, that if you're going to make it like that, then you have to get rid of it. But they don't. And this is why we're in trouble.
All right.
Then it becomes everybody else. They get all the profits and all the goodness, and we get left with a planet that is decaying.
Let's go to our poetic harbingers of doom, and that is Marshal McLuhan. For those that aren't aware of this book, you have to be really trapped in a cave without mobile connectivity to not be aware of it. The medium is the massage. Now, what McLuhan was talking about, and it really is the medium is the message. That was a print mistake there. But what he is talking about is the mere fact that the medium shapes the way we think, not the message. The medium itself rewires the brain to acclimate to its constant, source of attention making, attention span being decreased, all those sorts of things. So it's no longer become the importance of the tsunami of information and data out there. It's the way that you receive it and utilize that that is actually defining who you are. Let's go to the extraordinary literature, at least 24 books and numerous papers by the most remarkable proletariat, whose writings were so good that they actually touched 1 million people in 1957 that were aware that something was going on. They were being manipulated heavily by the advertising industry. I told you to be calm on that. There is coffee there, darling. There is coffee there. So there's Vance Packard. This is another book that always got me, The Wastemakers.
Oh, yes, The Wastemakers.
I love this cover. We've still got this cover.
Yeah.
But The Wastemakers, in any shape, form, or cover, go and look for it. There is so many astounding books written by Vance Packard that are languishing out there that people need to be made aware of. This guy really was insightful on human society and who we are. So
he was telling us where we were going to end up.
Yeah. So Vance Packard is an important piece of our cultural understanding of the blue screen of death, where we are today, Aspasia.
Yeah. Well, years ago we found out about that light bulb in San Francisco.
That's right.
In the San Francisco
fire station.
And it was 100 years old.
120 years
or
old.
Or whatever it was. It was definitely close to 100 years old. I don't know if it's still working today. But it had lasted that long because the filament that it was made out of was so thick that it never burnt out. So what they started to do is, like, instead of it, they used to be 2,000 hours. The people that are making the globe said, why don't you make the filament thinner so it burns out in 1,000 hours? So they come to the shop and buy another bulb sooner rather than later, right? And same with the nylon stocking. Now, nylon's a really strong material.
Incredibly strong fiber.
And nylon stockings shouldn't ladder at all. But if you spin it thin enough, then it'll get hooked on something, and it'll there'll be a rung in it, and you've got to buy a new pair of stockings much sooner than later. So what they started doing was that's what they did. They started to make things thinner and flimsier and looser, and so they would break down earlier than they needed to.
Now, you work for a company called Reverse Garbage, which was a pioneer in Australia of turning material away from landfills.
Exactly.
And you were designed for them to show people how to use offcuts, to use things to DIY, rebuild stuff instead of it ending up in the rubbish pile.
In landfill,
now, you used to send lots of computer equipment to Sergio Leone in
Sierra Leone.
Sorry, what am I saying? I'm getting into the.
Well, no, what we used to, we actually didn't. They used to fix the computers here. We used to fix the computers here, and we used to send them working computers.
Right.
But, fixed ones, repurposed.
Now you
not
started
repurposed,
to
refurbished.
see that psychological built-in obsolescence, didn't you? Give
Well,
us a few examples of that, where people would bring in a lounge because they didn't like the color anymore.
Well, I picked up a lounge from a couple down the road from my place. In the truck, there was a lounge, a coffee table, and a lamp and something else. And I walked into the house and I said, "So where are they?" And we were in the lounge room. They said, "These here." And I'm like, "What's wrong with them?" They said, "Nothing. They're an unmarried couple, no pets, both worked full time. The lounge was white. It was pristine. I don't think anybody had sat on it, but they just wanted to buy a new one because they just, they were sick of the look. They just wanted a change." And so, it was like, just get rid of it. I don't understand what's wrong with people.
Yeah.
Obviously too much money. That's their problem. They have too much money. Because if you've got the money and then you're looking at something all the time that's the same and you go, "I'm bored with this." And that's what's happened to us, you see. We've become bored with everything. Everything's got to be fast moving. Everything's got to change all the time. I can't look at the same thing all the time.
It's all okay. You've got that out. Calm down. But you know what? And please excuse me before forgetting a spaghetti western director from the 60s muddled up with a location in the world.
Who did Sergio Leone. Sierra Leone. Yeah. That's okay.
My apologies there. My head is crammed full of all sorts of fragmented information. Shake the database clean. I think, what's happening here is very similar. Our background, too, is in street welfare, drug and alcohol use. They have created psychological addictions to change.
Yes.
And to short attention spans. Yeah. One of the most astounding things of a human being is to be able to solely concentrate on a problem and come up with a solution. That is dissipating quickly. Mm-hmm. It's a terrible moment in the midst of this podcast. We're going to go to an Untold Radio ad break.
Hello, members. This is Chris. I have a cool news flash from the Untold Radio Network. Starting this May 2024, members of the Untold Radio Network will be receiving special after-hours show content notifications, plus a chance once a year to hang out on camera in a webinar setting with your favorite podcast personalities. And because we have 12 different shows, it means that each month you will get to meet different podcast hosts. This face-to-face meeting will allow you to discuss anything, ask questions, offer content suggestions, and get to know all of our hosts personally. Plus, talk to them face-to-face through the magic of YouTube Live. Again, this is for members only. And don't worry, you will be notified well in advance of a simple sign-up reservation for that particular host or hosts. Plus, member-only after-hour shows will be available in our reserved members-only section on YouTube. Each podcast will be producing at least one after-hour show or more per year, and one webinar meet and greet per year. We sincerely thank you for being a loyal listener of your favorite Untold Radio Network shows and becoming a loyal member. Other perks include you getting top priority in chat, guest interactions, plus getting the answers to your great questions from our hosts and guests. There's even more perks. To members, exclusive wallpapers, special discounts on books, merch, and more. So stay tuned for new announcements. This is Chris, signing off from the Untold Radio Network. We will be talking soon.
Well, there you go. That's, not much false advertising there, but who in the hell is Chris? Chris is an avatar out of the AI consciousness of Untold Radio. And you're on that down south Anomalies, the blue screen of death. One strike and you're out. CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
And also, some people have said that CrowdStrike, that company and the companies listed with CrowdStrike have maybe a bit of a motive, and I didn't really look into this. People can go and investigate this into a one cryptocurrency platform out there. So maybe it's assisting them to push people out of the electronic world of their money in banks into the crypto world, but who knows?
Oh, yeah, that's what you want to do. You don't want your money in a bank where you can physically go out and get it.
Can you?
What do you mean?
Well, can you when it crashes?
Oh, I
when the
don't
blue
know.
screen is
Well,
death, you can't get it. And there were many people. My sister couldn't buy food from a shop. They wouldn't even accept cash.
Well, I don't know why they wouldn't accept cash. Cash is legal tender. Do you know what I mean?
I think they freaked out thinking it was a major hack into their system.
Yeah, no, I know. My
Personally,
sister was in a shop too. She was trying to buy a pair of pants for an event that we went to on the Sunday. That's how I found out about it.
Don't tell me she had to go pantless.
Well, no, she had to go back the next day to buy them and she was begging the woman. She said, "Look, I've got cash." She goes, "No, I've been ordered by my boss to shut the store, get everybody out of the store now,
freak out,
and shut the store down." It's like, oh man.
Well, I reckon this is a warning
because that's a terrible thing. People, clothes. It's like, oh god. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure she had other pants at home.
She did, and she wasn't that stressed. But it's like, that we've been sold this. The mobile to us has now been sold to everybody as this convenient way of having everything in one place. I see people, they pull out their phone to pay for clothes in the shop. They pull out their phone to tap to get on the bus. They pull out their phone to buy food. They pull out their phone for everything, right? But it's like now, this thing happens and now you're stuck. You can't even get home because you can't get on the bus and to tap your phone to pay for your fare. I mean, that's just insane to sell us something so tenuous that all that has to happen is the electricity has to go off. You run out of charge and you're done.
Yeah. Evidently, it didn't affect the Cybertruck. They weren't running on the Windows Microsoft program. But they're still slicing, dicing, and Julianing people in the street as a pedestrian safety. What we might do is go to one of the only optimistic moments from Marshal McLuhan.
Oh, yeah.
Our professor, when he talks about the kids of the future, we can actually see that in our grandchildren that we took on holidays with us. They will survive through anything because they're entertainers.
Yeah, they are.
And the AI can't get up there and dance and sing and carry on.
No.
But they're also pragmatists, but they are so influenced by this technological culture.
Of course they are. They've grown up with it. They can't help but
be. Of it.
The best way to learn the grammar of any form or the way in which it is laid out is to get involved in using it and making it. Obviously, children engaged in making a film turn to look at films with brand new eyes.
There it modulates a UHF transmitter.
The child of the future is a rather terrifying thought. It makes even science fiction look rather tame. What is in effect happening is a kind of extension not only of the learning process, but of consciousness itself into the outer environment, so that the child of the future is likely to be able to program consciousness with the same ease with which we have previously programmed curricula. But I can't be terrified by such prospects, really, because these are also extensions of man. They are not ways. They are means of becoming more oneself rather than ways of becoming alienated from oneself. You can't possibly imagine a technology except the most specialist fragmentary type that could possibly alienate man from himself. They amplify our powers, they accelerate our powers, and they enrich the learning process enormously.
It is received at Prince Albert after reflection.
I think that's it.
Child of the future.
And you know what? I think that is it. But what Marshal McLuhan there didn't state is that they convolute the learning process. And now, with the tsunami of data, they actually muddy the waters with too much noise on what should be a highly clear signal.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of disparity amongst statistics and information I'm searching for, even just researching these shows. Everyone's got a different voice, a different perspective. but trying to find logical peer review stats that say that there is the totality of
It's
this
really
amount of
difficult.
evidence to this case. Everyone's got a different take on it.
Yeah.
Where does the truth lie? And here's where the problem does occur. But what we witnessed, what we experienced last Friday, is just the beginning. And I'm not telling people to become doomsday preppers. I'm just saying, should we be relying so heavily on this electronic equipment?
Well,
should we be paying these companies to keep creating this stuff? I mean, they have to go for that precious metal they've called like unobtainium. That
Americanium, is it?
Americanium. I mean, what in the hell is that doing environmentally?
Well,
and the danger to all our lives. Anyway,
you know what it seems to me like? We're hurtling towards a brick wall. No, truly.
we're going to stop. It's that stop
the
error.
brick wall will stop us, but it's like we're hurtling towards
I think that's a good metaphor.
something, but I think it's just a brick wall there that we're just going to go bang, because what is all this, what is all this stuff that we're doing? Always about making our life easier. I mean, how easy do you need to make our life?
We know getting
And we're
older,
not.
we actually don't need that ease
But we're
to
not-
actually keep our muscles
But
moving.
our life is not becoming easier. It's becoming more convoluted and complicated and just, I see people, they're always dissatisfied with everything that they have.
Because there's
And the
too
more
much
they
on offer.
have, the more dissatisfied they are, and they're searching for stuff, and it's like, there's nothing to search for. Just live your life and
Devo sing
be
about it?
happy. Find a person, like being with someone is not going to be easy. It's not going to be all, like just
Tell me about it.
But that's what it's about, It's about fitting in with each other, taking that other person's feelings and their needs and wants into consideration, just like they should with you, blah, 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 blah. But it's like everybody's just out for themselves, It's all about me, 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 me all the time, and that gets you nowhere. The global village, we don't need a global village. That's the problem. The global village is not good. The only good a global village is for the corporations, so they can sell everybody the same crap. Right?
Someone actually asked McLuhan about the tribe, and wasn't the tribe really supportive? He goes, well, the tribe back then might have been relatively supportive, but the tribe after a while gets a bit sick of you, gets a bit used to you.
No, they don't. How would he know? He's never lived in a Greek village.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
I have a Greek village at my beck and call. And, sure, we know everything about everybody, but that's the whole point, isn't it? We know each other so well.
But
We're
you're
all
supported by love,
Absolutely.
which is different to the shattered village out there.
Absolutely. The global village is just about selling you crap. That's what it is.
And people feeling incredibly insignificant and insecure, so they have to come in and attack others
And of
to
course,
feel
look,
better.
I'm telling you now, there's a few assholes in my village, I can tell you, but we know them. I can see them coming. It's like, oh yeah, I know
You're
you.
not supposed to be using that language here.
I'm sorry, but
Untold.
sometimes it's the quickest way to
The fast track.
The fast track to explaining something to someone, right?
Are we at the end of this show?
Oh, I think we're way beyond the end.
All right.
I think we're just ranting
All right, just
now.
like the blue screen of death, we should bring in the stop error. A short show this week, an intimate show, but we had to address what we came home
What
to.
we came back to. Everybody was quite freaked, actually. I was like really surprised because we got off the cruise ship in the morning at like 8 o'clock, 7:45.
Someone got
We got in a cab and we came straight home. Within 20 minutes, we were home. And I then did a couple things here, put the kids in the car, and then I drove to my daughter-in-law's. And, then we went straight to the baby shower, a family baby shower that we were
get
having.
to the point here.
And that's where I found out about the blue screen of death. That it was like they were all up in arms over it and freaked out. And it's like, oh, God, I had no clue that that's what happened,
Yet, what did people arm themselves that they're going to do in the future when
Nothing.
this happens?
Nothing.
There's nothing you can do.
Well, there's things. Well,
we've been sold the sizzle, the snake oil, and we can't give it back.
I never bought it.
No.
So that was the point.
All right,
I never bought. I could see back then that this was going to be a problem.
Boy,
and
am I in for a hell of a day.
And
Look,
I
this woman
said
is
to you,
fired
we are
up
not
today.
purchasing mobile phones.
All right. Okay. You've been on episode 92, The Blue Screen of Death. One strike. Thank you to CrowdStrike. I think they're out. Their share prices are diving just up there with Boeing, Starliner,
somebody else,
and a few other companies like Intuitive Machines.
Their share price goes down, somebody else's goes up.
Yeah, it's a usury pyramid system.
Absolutely.
It's just one for the rich and the winners.
Yep.
And the proletariat like us ends up
Just
down
keep
in the
putting
gutter,
their hand in the
looking up
pocket
at the stars,
and paying for
screaming at them.
things that they don't need to. But hey,
all right.
that's
Okay.
where we're at.
Until next week, all our love. Take good care. Thank you for being here with us. You've been on Untold Radio.
We really appreciate you.
At Anomalies.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you next week. Bye,
Why
kids.
couldn't you be eating that lozenge earlier?